Hello, folks. Kyle here. Welcome in. Welcome in. Thanks for joining me. Hope you're having a good Wednesday night. This was a short week for me because I was off Monday and Tuesday, so it feels like a Monday for me. But yeah, it's a nice long weekend with lots of fun fishing involved. So give me just 1 second here. Something wrong. All right, we'll see if that works. We got Daddy Duck 365. He's listening in, driving home from work. We got Small Water Charters in the house. Good to have you. City Sticker Chris is in the house. Hey, good to have you. Real good meeting you Saturday. That was a lot of fun at the what do we call that? The 2021 YouTube Creators Rendezvous over in Clarion, Pennsylvania. That was a lot of fun, man. Camping out. That was my son's first time camping, and he had a ball running around with Adam's little one, Clayton. They were best buds. Speaking about them, we have Freezer Bound Outdoors is in the house. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in, guys. I'm gonna mix it up a little bit today. I usually do whatever theme I chose for my live, and then at the very end I do the shout outs, but I'm mixing it up a little bit this week. I'm actually going to put my shout outs at the front of my live. I'm going to do those first. And part of that is a little bit of a reflection on this past weekend, going to the 2021 YouTube Creators Rendezvous and meeting some of those guys. So that's going to be part of a little bit of my reflection on the weekend, and then shout out to most of those guys. I think I got one on here that wasn't in attendance, but several of the others I had previously done shout out. So how far away Ben lives? Yes, I don't know. The drive home was a lot smoother. It was only about 3 hours and 10 minutes, so I must have been zipping along pretty good. But we have Tina Ladybug in the house. Welcome in. I hope you're having a good Wednesday evening. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. John's ready to shout and let it all out. He's in a party mood tonight. That's great. That's great. We love that. I like it. Okay. So people are trickling in. I've rambled on for a few minutes. I'm going to get right to the shout outs, and then we'll banter about some of the big one that got away. Shout out number one is no surprise. It is Freezer Bound Outdoors. Adam and his crew. Adam, Joe, Ryan. I know I'm forgetting at least a couple more that I met. Oh, the bad guy. Yeah, great guys. Had a lot of fun out there in Clarion, Pennsylvania. They've got an awesome channel, especially if you love anything related to deer hunting or hunting in general. Check them out. If you don't have Freezer Bound Outdoors, definitely check them out. Watch their stuff. The Boxy way, right? We show support. We watch their video. We do our best to watch it all the way through, start to finish. We leave a genuine comment, and then if we really enjoyed that content, we will subscribe to hopefully watch more of that content. That's the Boxy way. We show support. We're a community of supporters. So definitely hit them up, check them out. I think you're really going to like it. Shout out number two goes to Geo Bushcraft Outdoors. Greg, he's got a really great channel. He's got a lot of knowledge, man. This is an outdoorsman that's been doing outdoors things for a lot of years, and he's got a lot that he can show and teach us. He was there at the rendezvous. It was great to meet Greg. It's great to meet all the guys, but Greg was there. I really enjoyed meeting him. I hadn't shouted him out before. I know a lot of people that watch my channel probably have him, but if you don't, G space O Bushcraft Outdoors. Check him out. We got Living MN Outdoors. Daniel, welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome in. Yeah, he was really kind of a big part in that, Adam. I don't know if he was part of the setup, but definitely the planning. He was getting the word out and hyping it up, and I know you and he kind of collabed on that, and the planning stages. That was fantastic. Again, super guy. If you don't have him, definitely get him in your playlist. Check him out. The third channel shout out for tonight is going to be Jakey Crack Outdoors, another fine outdoorsman from the Pennsylvania area. If you like trapping and hunting, and yeah, I think he's even got some fishing content. Get over to his channel. Jake he's a super guy. He came out wearing a coyote on his head. That was a 2 thumbs up, man. That was fantastic. Just a down to earth, genuine, good dude all around. If you don't have Jakey Crack Outdoors, definitely get over there and check him out. Channel shout out number 4 goes to Judith and Dan Davis, predominantly trapping, but anything and everything outdoor related to the outdoors. I know they enjoy the fishing. Definitely check out their channel. They're the sweetest people in the world, coming to you from down south. It's either Louisiana or Mississippi. I want to say it's Louisiana. But yeah, sweet people. And I tell you what, they know trapping. They definitely know trapping, and they're also in the YouTube community tremendous supporters. So if you don't have Judith and Dan Davis, definitely check them out. After my lives, I always put links to my channel shout outs down in the description. So I would certainly, I'll certainly have the links to these channels in the description after the fact. And then channel number 5 shout out is going to be Punchline and Sinker. Met those guys Saturday in Clarion at the Rendezvous. Super guys. They've got some great fishing content and a lot more to come. They jazz it up. They bring a little bit of their rock music into their videos. And great guys to hang out with. It was really cool to meet them. And definitely check out Punchline and Sinker, their channel. Again, channel links will be added to the description down below after the fact. We got Raymond Williams in the house. Thanks for stopping in. I hope you're having a good night. Good to have you here. Welcome in. How's everyone doing? Having a good night? I started it off mentioning that I had a 4-day weekend, and I was out fishing Monday, and then I was kayak fishing yesterday. So today feels like a Monday to me. This week's hopefully going to fly by. And then we've got the holiday weekend, and I have Tuesday off. So I have another 4-day weekend. Yay, me. Okay. Well, let's get into tonight's topic. The big one that got away. I'm sure that we all have stories. Yeah, there was some luck, and there was both varieties of luck, good and bad. I think a total of 11 fish were caught. And one of the days I was muskie fishing, and the other day I was fishing for smallmouth bass. So you'll have to watch the videos to see how that all unfolds. I release a video every Friday, so this week's video is going to be my video for the Rendezvous, and then next week will be next Friday's video will be muskie fishing with my dad, and he's 80 years old, and he's really not much of a fisherman. and he just doesn't fish. He never has. But he's always thought, he just thinks that he likes the idea of catching a big muskie. So he agreed to go, and we had a lot of fun. And then yesterday I was kayak fishing on one of basically my favorite local river here, and fishing, targeting smallmouth bass. So it was beautiful weather, and it was an awesome day. My buddy Rob and his friend Brad, I had never met Brad, and he was a hoot. So we had a ton of fun, man. There was some fish caught, but that video will be 2 weeks from this Friday. So it'll be no, I got this all wrong. This week is the rendezvous video. Next week is the muskie video. So yeah, it's 2 weeks from Friday would be the kayak fishing for smallmouth video. Yep, I think I got it right, but I may not have said it right the first time. So that's what's to come. Yeah. FBO, you probably got like 7 videos you got to edit to try to get all that in. You were capturing it all. I captured some of it, and I was just there for Saturday night and then Sunday. We packed up camp, but man, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I know everybody that was there had a good time. So definitely hope we get T-shirts rolled out for first annual. You know, that'd be a 2 thumbs up. And yeah, bigger and better for year 2 and onward and upward. Headwaters of the mighty Mississippi River. Yeah, that sounds like a good time. Some good fishing in the Mississippi, especially way up that way. Absolutely. Absolutely. So tales of the big one that got away, whether that's in relation to fishing or hunting, or I don't know if it happens a lot in trapping, but I think we all have our expeditions into the outdoors where we had that trophy on the line or in our sights, and life happens, and that's why they call it hunting and not bagging them. You got to go out and pursue it, and sometimes you successfully land that trophy fish, or you bag that trophy animal. Sometimes you don't. Yeah, lots of editing. All right, so I'm gonna start with fishing. The one that stands out in my mind. Apologize. I think it's unusually humid in here, or warm, or something. It shouldn't be all that hot, but anywho, the one that stands out in my mind, I was well, there's several. I'll start with the walleye. It may have been a bigger fish than this. I was fishing up at Lake Erie with my uncle, and we were fishing. We're fishing a pier that kind of has a backfill area off of it. We refer to that as the West Wall, and we were night fishing for walleye off that West Wall. And it was late in the year, probably year 2000 or 2001. It might have been November. I don't think it was December. There wasn't a bunch of ice and stuff on the rocks, so it was probably early November. And for whatever reason, I took my medium light rod rather than medium heavy, and I thought it being a longer rod was going to help me with cast distance and managing the fish. Well, I was able to bomb cast pretty well, but boy, do I regret it, because I had a hold of a walleye, and I couldn't do hardly anything with it. I was trying. The rod was completely doubled, and I just wasn't gaining much on this fish at all. And we had caught a couple fish. We had caught like a 7-pounder and like a 7.5. Nice fish. But this fish was wearing me out. I think I had it on for maybe 10 minutes, easily 8 minutes. This was a battle. It wasn't just it's there and then it's gone. This was a long battle. I'm saying 10 minutes. That might even be conservative, but it was a tug of war. And then the fish came up on the surface, kind of up on a wave, and maybe about 25 feet out, and it was not dark. It was dusk, and it got up on that wave, and it kicked, and the lure come out, and it flicked its tail, and it bent over, and our eyes got like this big, and we were like, oh my God. It was this class or bigger, and that's a 32-inch walleye that was 13 pounds. So that's my big one that stands out for Lake Erie and trophy walleye. It was that was a hell of a night, man. I caught a bunch of grief from my uncle too. He shouldn't bring a wimpy little thing like that to a fight like this, knowing what you could be doing battle with. And I said, yeah, I've caught walleye on this rod before, but I think I was a little bit outclassed. He said, you were definitely outclassed. But then we can talk about him, okay? He and I were fishing off of his brother's boat, my other uncle, up at Paley Island on Lake Erie for smallmouth bass. And that was back in, probably 93, 94, somewhere in there. And the fishing was good. We, throughout the day, I think there was 5 of us on the boat. He had a big lineman, one of those like probably a 26-foot lineman, 24-foot lineman. Anyway, we were having a great day. I think everybody was in double digits. Everybody had caught probably 12, 15, 16 smallmouth bass. And they were all typical Lake Erie smallmouth bass, running anywhere from 2 pounds to about 4 pounds. But nobody caught a big one, a really big one. And we will just say, holy moly, 53.25-inch muskie. Man, Daniel, you're living right. You got some big fish, man. But back to this story, we had all been using Shiner minnows, which is a pretty typical bait for Lake Erie smallmouth bass. And my uncle did bring something different. He brought some minnows that were not Shiner minnows, and they ran a little bit bigger. And he grabbed a really big one. I was like, I don't think they're gonna eat that. That's too far. I don't think it's gonna work. He says, I think it's gonna work. And he had that minnow down there for an hour. And maybe it wasn't an hour, but it was a long time. I mean, a lot of times fishing with live bait, you put a fresh bait on because that bait gets tired of swimming around with the hook and all that stuff. Hey, we got Greenwell Fishing in the house. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good evening. Happy Wednesday. So he put that down there and he kept it down there. He stayed with it. And sure enough, he got bit. And he rears back and his pole's doubled over and his drag is screaming. I mean, constant screaming. It's not doing the intermittent thing. It's a constant screaming drag for easily 45 seconds. He couldn't do anything with this fish. So finally, after that long, it did start doing kind of a more intermittent, right? We got Sunfish Assassin in the house. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good Wednesday. So And this fish, it finally slows down, but it's still just pull and drag intermittently, and I think he had that fish on for about 3 minutes, and it never turned and came toward us. It was just pulling line, pulling line, pulling line, and it wasn't real rough that day. It was kind of small waves, but sure enough, about the time that, I don't know if he said it or someone else on the boat said, it can't be a smallmouth bass. It hasn't come up. 5 seconds later, it came up on a big wave and it kicked its tail, and there went the bait with the hook, and the fish was gone. And we all saw it. It was a ways out, but we all saw it. And our jaw, every one of us, our jaw hit the floor of the boat like, it was massive. It was and it was a smallmouth. We started thinking, did he hook a northern pike? They're not super common, but there's some around, or maybe even a muskie, or maybe even a sturgeon. We were convinced he had hooked into something that was not a smallmouth bass. And then when we saw that, yes, indeed, it was a smallmouth bass, we were all just, whoa. He was devastated. He slunk down onto the engine cover. He was like this the rest of the day. And he's like, he couldn't go on. I mean, he wasn't really singing the blues, he didn't cry about it, but he was just like, oh, I just don't think I can do it anymore. And I think eventually he did pick up the rod again and fish, but he needed a minute, which was probably like 30, 40 minutes. I don't think he fished. And no one could blame him. We were all like, yeah, man, take some time. That was a special fish, man. That was a special fish. We don't always get them in. Are you guys up for a deer hunting story? The one that got away? I have a bunch of those. Good Lord. I have a bunch of those. I'll tell you one of my favorite deer hunts that did not result in me harvesting a deer. That's the one I'll tell you. It's a two-part. No, well, it's got two aspects to it. It was a morning hunt on private land, this little woodlot that I had access to for only 1 year. The guy that was building a house next to mine, he saw me practicing with my bow. He said, I can get you access. I can get you permission to hunt someplace. Would you be interested? I said, sure. He got me access, written permission to hunt this little woodlot. And I had hunted it several times, probably 3 or 4 times, but now we're getting close to the rut. It's like November 1st or 2nd, and it's pre-dawn. I'm walking in the woods, and I'm pretty sure I heard a deer run off, and I could smell real heavy, like, yeah, that was probably a buck. But anyway, I slipped in, put my climber on the tree, up the tree I went, right? So around, and then the dawn unfolds and nothing happens, right? But at about 9 o'clock, around 9:15 in the morning, this big buck comes slipping through the woods, right? I mean, it was probably a 10 point, and I want to say it was a 130 class, maybe 140 class. It was a heavy rack. Okay. It was a nice heavy rack. And he came slipping through, and he was about 40 yards off, and he kept looking the other way, like angling away from me, looking over that way. So I'm looking over there, and then here's a Hartford is coming right straight toward me. And when I say Hartford, I mean this was a typical buck. I believe it was a 10 point, and he was just as wide and tall as the Hartford logo. I mean, he was enormous. No doubt in my mind, a booner. I don't know if he was pushing 200, but he was a slam dunk booner every day. There was one small problem with where this beautiful buck was at. He was straight downwind of me. Now the other one was sneaking in kind of off to my left, and he wasn't anywhere near my downwind stream, but this other buck was. And as he was walking up from 60, 70 yards off, he came to a deadfall that was about, I think I ranged it at 55 yards, and that's just, I can't shoot beyond 40. So I'm not going to sling a prayer at anything. You don't want to wound an animal like that, but you just hope and pray that maybe he wants to challenge this other buck. He'll come around closer, but it was a really, really big deadfall. Like the trunk of this tree was like to his chest, and this was a ginormous buck. He got to 55 yards and he stopped and he stood there and he just kept winding, that nose straight up in the air, winding and looking. And I was like, and I've got my bow. I'm in ready position, right? And I'm looking at this nice buck right over here that on any other given day I'm ecstatic to try to harvest it. And I'm looking at this joker straight downwind, going, it was kind of a perplexing position to be in, but logic prevailed, right? Took over. Can't believe I left that up there, but video of fish that got away. That's awesome. That's awesome. I have a couple of those videos too. So logic takes over, and I recognize this buck that is 55 yards away, that is the buck of all bucks that I may ever see in the wild, is never going to come any closer. He has come about as close as he's going to come, and he's winding, and he's not getting a nose full of my scent because I take scent control precautions, and I'm very liberal with that. But he's getting just enough. This was an old, mature buck. He'd been around. He ain't getting fooled by about anything. If he was upwind, I'd have a chance to do something. But he is straight downwind. And he has figured it out that this is not a good situation. So as I'm eyeballing this buck and watching him come to a standstill and try to figure me out, the other buck now has slipped in to within about 25 yards. And so now it's do or die time, right? This buck isn't going to stick around here forever within shooting range. He's a fine, mature buck right there, 25 yards away. I can make that shot. So knowing this other buck is going to see me, see the movement, whatever, I'm like, I got to do what I got to do. So as this buck in front of me is eyes glued to the bigger one down that way, I went ahead and drew. And that motion did get both their attentions. They both kind of look. And now I've got a problem because I can see that there's a branch halfway between he and I. And I'm not 100% positive it's in the flight path trajectory of the arrow, because it's going to have a slight arc to it. But I feel like it's a problem. And so then I squatted down in my stand. I kind of did a squat. And I was about to shoot until you're squinting as you're looking to aim. And I opened this off eye, and I could see as I squatted, now there was a branch 4 inches in front of my arrow. That was a problem. I wasn't going to be able to shoot in this squatted position. So now I've got two mature bucks watching me do all of this movement, and they're, obviously about to bolt at 80 mile an hour. I'm like, I got to do something. So I stood back up, and I just assumed the branch will either be in the way or it won't be in the way. I'm either going to get a clean hit. I'll miss the branch and get a clean hit, or if I hit the branch, it'll deflect the arrow, and the arrow will go God knows where. So I decided to go ahead and take the shot. The branch was in the way. It deflected and skipped about 18, 20 yards past the deer. He ran off. I'm watching Hartford buck run off. It happens like that sometimes. I suppose had I not been distracted by this Hartford caliber buck, I would have recognized as this other buck was slipping in that branch was in the way before I drew my bow back. And I would have been a little bit more patient and I would have waited. And then maybe by waiting, I'd have had a better opportunity, a clearer shot. But in the heat of the moment, that's the way it all unfolded. We got Eric Burnside in the house. Hello, welcome in. Welcome in. Great to have you here. I hope you're having a great Wednesday. Welcome in. Welcome in. We're talking about the big one that got away, and that can apply to fishing. That can apply to hunting. Yeah, it was tough, man. Oh man, that's brutal. Oh man. Living MN Outdoors says we hooked a giant halibut in Alaska. Captain figured it was over 400 pounds. We were fishing a derby that paid 25 grand in a Dodge pickup. First mate hit the line with the harpoon and it swam off. Oh man, that's brutal. Brutal. That was the one that got away, John. I don't know. I think you landed a keeper for sure in Lindia. That's a 2 thumbs up, man. You're probably better off today, huh? Far better off today, man. You're a blessed man, my friend. That's incredible, Daniel. That's wow. Who else has lost one? This is great. Yeah, John, your fish get buried in the grass and you lose them that way. I can imagine. I can imagine. We got Down South Outdoors in the house. Welcome in. Welcome in. I hope you're having a good Wednesday. Great to have you here. Great to have you here. We're talking about the one that got away, and that can be fishing or hunting, a trophy fish or a trophy game animal that you pursue. Just a little side note, a tangent, if you will. I didn't really get a chance to get out turkey hunting at all this spring, and I had not seen many turkeys in my area at all. Our numbers are down, and there's been a lot of chatter about that online, on social media. That like in the central Ohio area, that's our bird numbers are way down. In northeast Ohio, they're pretty good. East Ohio, they're pretty good. Southeastern Ohio, it's pretty spotty, and then Central Ohio, it's like next to nothing. And I don't know what it's like out west, but Western Ohio, but I don't think it's all that great either. But when we were going yesterday, when we were driving from early in the morning from the takeout to the put in, we drove past a field, and there was a great big beautiful tom out there, all just strutting and doing his thing, and it was just really cool to see for a guy that loves turkey and turkey hunting and hadn't really even seen too many birds. That was a cool sight, a welcome sight for sure. So let's see what else. I've shared a couple of fishing stories. Shared a deer hunting story. I feel like I've got a lot of the big one that got away muskie stories. I have screwed up on muskies more times than I can shake a stick at. I had one time I was fishing with my uncle, and we were at Alum Creek, and we were at the back of a cove, and he was fishing a glide bait, and I was fishing a spinner bait, and we had gotten kind of to the very back of this cove, and we were kind of out of water. I'm like thinking we were getting too shallow. I'm like, you gonna keep this going? And all of a sudden, he's got about halfway in on his retrieve with his glider, and he says, there she is. There's a big one. This was probably a 45, 44, 45, 46-inch fish. And I had cast it after he did. So my retrieve was kind of in behind his. And this fish, as I brought my spinnerbait past, she was probably, we weren't in direct line of each other for our casts. Our casts were probably 8 feet apart. But as my spinnerbait came past her from 8 feet away, she turned and she came straight to the spinnerbait. And by the time she got on it, I wasn't that far out from the end of my rod. I probably only had about 10, 12 feet of line out. So, and I felt like to get her to eat it, I had to speed it up. So I kind of sped up my reel and I moved my rod backwards, like, gosh, if I could find this comment and then change it. So I was, I sped up my reel and I pulled it backwards like this. And when I got to here, she ate it. And I had no leverage to try to get a good hook set on her. And I yanked and she went like that and she was gone. And I don't think I never even got the hook in her because I had no leverage whatsoever. So that was frustrating. My personal best, Daniel, I caught it last year in, no, I think it was 2019. Yeah, I caught it in 2019. It was a 43.5, which is not really much of a trophy. But I captured it on film. I get to relive it. I was with my kiddos. I get to relive that moment all the time. It's funny. I didn't have my action camera or my cameras that day, so I had to fish. The fight was maybe halfway over, and I passed my phone off to my daughter, and I said, start videoing. So she did, and we caught, like I said, half the fight, and it was a good time. And the video for that is called "Putting Muskies in the Net." If you guys want to go back and watch it, there's kind of a really neat scene after the fish is in the net. First of all, the net, it wasn't properly secured. So, the net was about to come out of the handle. So I had to fix that. And then when I'm going to, the fish unhooked itself by hanging the lure on the net. And I'm reaching in to get the lure out of the net, and the fish thrashes back toward me. And I pull my hand away. And as you see the fish come back toward my hand, it was a really, really close call. It was a really, really close call. I was the one that got away from the fish on that deal because she was ready to chomp me. She came within about an inch of getting my hand. Yeah, you and Cody definitely have the muskies up there in Minnesota. We got Bucktails Outdoors in the house. Don, welcome in. Welcome in. I hope you're having a good Wednesday. It's good to see you. You got some exciting things going on, huh? You got the new truck. That looks fantastic, man. I have a feeling you're gonna love that. And I have a feeling that there is more news to share in the very near future. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. So yeah, definitely check that out. But I mean, last year, was it Memorial Day weekend? I was out there with my son, and I had a great big muskie right beside the boat, and it threw the lure. Um, I think I had 3 muskies beside the boat last year that were probably 38 and up. But well, I know 2 of them were in the mid 40s class or bigger, and then one of them might have been a special fish, 48, 49, maybe bigger. I don't know. That was the one. What my son was with me. That fish was massive. That fish was massive, and I never even got a really, really good look at it. That was a bad one that got away, but that's on video. That one is from last year, and it's called Muskie Heartbreak, I think. Yeah, if you want to watch me lose my mind about a big fish that got away right beside the boat, but yet I've got a 6-year-old right beside me, so I really got to use clean language. It's pretty comical. And then a few minutes later, my son's laughing at me. We got Jesse Lopez fishing in the house. Welcome in. Welcome in. It's good to have you. It's good to have you. I hope you're having a good night. Fishing the Everglades tomorrow. That sounds good, John. Yeah, Don, most of my muskie fishing is in lakes / reservoirs. We got Cranking and Yanking is in the house. Welcome in. Good to have you. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, most of my muskie fishing is in lakes. I've done a little bit of river and creek muskie hunting. I don't know. What have I? I know I caught a muskie in the New River. That was in Virginia, just outside Blacksburg. That might be my only river muskie. That might be my only river muskie. I've targeted them at Alum Creek several times, but I don't think I've ever landed one in the creek. I've had a few of them on. I don't think I've ever landed one. How about some of you fine folks? I've seen a couple of you share your stories in the chat. John has lost them in the weeds and grass. They got grass like crazy down there, so I guess those fish can get buried in it and then rip the lure out and swim off. So then you reel in a big pile of grass. Yeah, you never know where you're gonna find them, Don. They can inhabit some of those smaller flows. City Sticker Chris says his was a bear this year. You had a bear in your sights, and you had one of those. It just didn't happen, huh? It was the trophy that got away. It happens, man. It happens to us all. But on the muskies getting away thing, it was really kind of. There's times that a muskie gets away, and I just shrug and go, "That's fishing." Especially if they jump. If they jump and they get off on the jump, I just kind of throw my hands up and be like, That's part of it. Oh man, tough break, city sticker, Chris. Yikes. Down south outdoor says he's lost a few. I think we all have though, man. I think we all have. That's part of it. Oh, the Tacticam caught it. That's cool and it's not cool. um, some of those moments we want to relive, and some of them maybe we don't. I've relived the heartbreak with my son a couple of times, but then I don't want to go back and relive it anymore. I've probably seen it enough. But anyway, uh, in 2020, I had three muskies that were at least 38 inches or bigger right beside the boat. And they didn't jump. They were just, swimming and head shakes and stuff. And I was like, I didn't know if it was my rod was too stiff. The one rod was not a very fast action at all. It was a little bit of a pool cue action. So I blamed a little bit of it on that. I didn't like that the flexibility at the tip of that rod. So I felt like that was a little bit of a problem. Hey, we got Straight to the Point Outdoors in the house. Welcome in. Welcome in. It's great to have you. I hope you're having a good Wednesday. Appreciate you stopping in. Yeah, sometimes we don't want to share all of those things. I've had a couple misses and I didn't want to post the video. Another thing that I looked at with my setup on my muskie fishing, and on at least as far as the trolling rods and reels and that sort of thing, those are all my reels are all lined with a heavy braid. I use 80-pound braid, and braided line doesn't have any stretch or give to it, hardly at all. So I was relying predominantly on the rod to offer give and flexibility. And especially a rod that doesn't have much because it's not a fast action, that was a problem. But with pure braid, and then also my leaders that I was running was mostly either wire leader or a fluorocarbon, a fluoro leader, a heavy like 100-pound or 130-pound fluoro leader. So those don't have much stretch either. So if my whole setup doesn't have much stretch, and those fish are grabbing that bait at 4 miles an hour and turning, especially the bigger, heavier ones, guess what that's doing? That's tearing a little bit bigger hole in their mouth where that hook went in. And if it's a little bit bigger hole as they're doing that head shake, they're able to rip it, pop it right back out that bigger hole. So I made some changes. I made some changes to my setup. All of my rods are now fast action rod or extra fast. And then my trolling leaders, they're longer leaders. They're about 4 feet long, 3 to 4 feet long now. And I'm using mono that does have a little bit of a stretch. So that's going to act as like a shock absorber at the end of my line, so that I think I'll get the hook set, but I won't rip it out of their mouth or hammer it in there so hard that it puts a jarring big hole, and then they can easily shake it out. So I'm hoping that I have rectified some of those issues, because I mean, a muskie, like I said, when they jump, it's all bets are off. They're pretty good on those jumps of getting that out of there. But if they're just beside the boat swimming and shake her head like that shouldn't be enough to get off. I mean, I had 3 of them, 3 muskies beside the boat, 38 inches and up. They got off, and I was like, well, this isn't going to happen anymore. Working tonight, huh? Yeah, Don, those are great baits. I think my uncle, either his best fish or his second best fish was caught trolling a believer. And I think it was that same color, yellow with the black dot. So that's a great bait. That's a great bait. Um, I've got all kinds of crankbaits that I troll with. I really like the Depth Raiders by Booker Outdoors, Joe Booker. I've got the standard and I've got the 6-inch, the baby Depth Raider. The crankbait that I've caught the most muskies on is called a Boss Shad, and I've got that in clown color. It's a 4-inch bait, deep diving crank. And then last year, the Baker Shads really came on. Zach Baker, I want to say he's in Pennsylvania, custom bait maker, which I think when he first started, they were pretty reasonable. That might have been 5, 6, 8 years ago. They're really expensive now. What are you going to do? I got them in a swap for a reel, for a rod, and a few lures. And I got that Boss Shad and the 2 Baker Shads in the deal. And I'm gravitating more toward baits that are made out of wood and don't have any rattles. I guess there's a time and a place for the baits that have rattles. Maybe water that's a little bit more stained or even muddy. You're trying to, tap into that fish's lateral line and get them to really key on that bait. Hey, thanks for stopping in Down South Outdoors. But yeah, there's all kinds of baits. I've got 1 or 2 musky snacks, deep diving cranks that are long and slender. I've got a couple of tough shads, the plastic version. I've got some Rapala Super Shad Wraps. I really like those. Hey, you bet. Thanks for stopping in. Straight to the point. Yeah, there's been Ohio can be tough on topwater, but I've heard of 2 or 3 muskies caught on topwater here in Ohio in the last like 2 weeks. I personally I've never caught a muskie on the topwater, and I don't think I've had a muskie hit a topwater lure either. So catch them on gliders, jerk baits, spinner baits. And I've never caught one on a bucktail, which I know that's like ridiculous because that's one of the most popular baits of all time for muskie. But I don't think I've ever gotten one to eat a bucktail. Swim baits. I've gotten follows, and I think I've caught at least 1 or 2 on a swim bait. So that's in the arsenal. Let's see what else. I've shared a walleye that got away story. I've shared a smallmouth bass story that got away. Muskie story that got away. I've got one more fishing story I'll share. This was one of my best nights of catfishing. I don't target catfish very often, but every once in a while I'll catfish. And I did quite a bit more of it when I was younger. And on this particular night, funny enough, talking about muskie in Clear Fork Lake, my favorite lake. Yeah, those smaller walleyes, huh? On this particular night at Clear Fork Lake, my buddy and I, we wanted to do some catfishing. We had muskie fish during the day, like the afternoon and into dusk, and we didn't catch a muskie. So once we went from dusk to dark, we're like, okay, we're going to start catfishing now. And I'm motoring around the lake, and I wasn't marking anything. I wasn't marking anything. I went like all the way down to the dam, down across the dam face, and then all the way back up the other side of the lake. I wasn't marking anything. My buddy's getting impatient. He's antsy. He's like, let's just put bait out and fish. Like, I'm not gonna fish unless the fish finder's telling me there's fish in the air, at least a few. We got up to closer to the upper end of the lake, you know, where the water flows in. There's an island there, and we got 60 yards off that island, and the fish finder lit up. And I said, this is where we're going to fish. This is finally. We dropped anchor on both the front and back, and tied up a bait, and I cast it out there. And he's tying up a bait, and I'm tying up second rod. I think I had to get the hook on there, so I tied the hook. Just getting ready to put the bait on it, and I look down, and my line's flying out of the reel, 100 mile an hour. So I grab it, close the bail, set the hook, a rod doubles over, and the drag is screaming for probably a minute. There's nothing I can do. I'm just holding on. I'm along for the ride. Fishing with spinning gear, 6-7 foot medium heavy rod, and standard probably at that time 12 pound mono. I don't know. We got Al's Outdoors in the house. We got John Euler Outdoorsman in the house. Welcome in, fellas. Good to see you. I hope you're having a good Wednesday. So this catfish has got me doubled over and the drag screaming, right? And there wasn't a whole lot I could do with it. And I'm just hoping to slow him down at this point. He did. He eventually slows down, and he turned. And I didn't realize it initially, but he came at me, and he came at me fast. So now I'm in catch-up mode. I am reeling as fast as I can, and I still can't hardly get tension on the end of the rod. So the boat swims back. The fish swims past the back of the boat, and by now I'm catching up to the fish, right, and putting pressure on the fish again. He's feeling the pressure, so he turns and he swims toward the front of the boat, and he wraps himself around the anchor. So, oh, come on now. Don't start all that, Al's Outdoors. We got Off the Hook Outdoors in the house. Welcome in. Welcome in. So this huge catfish, it wraps itself around the anchor rope. So I played the waiting game for several minutes, hoping he might swim himself off the anchor rope. It wasn't happening. So I tells my buddy, I said, we got to raise this anchor rope, and maybe we can net him right when he gets to the surface, get the net under him or something. But, it's dark. There is a light, boat light, and there's a lantern, and there's a little bit of light, but to see down over the edge of the boat, and not a lot of light getting to that point. And so we got him on the ready with the net, and I'm real super slow raising that anchor rope. And as soon as that fish got to the surface, shook his head and broke the line and was gone. We didn't even have a chance to try to net him. The fish was massive. So then he goes ahead and finishes casting a bait out. So now I bait up hook number 2, and I cast it out, and I set the rod down and set up number 1. I got to retie, right? That fish just broke my line. So I retied on a hook, and I reached for the bait to bait it up, and I look down, and rod number 2, the line's flying out of the reel, 100 mile an hour. I grabbed it, and flipped the bail, and I set the hook, right? I fought this fish, and I never felt like I didn't have control of it. I had control of this fish the whole time. Fought it and reeled it in and brought it in, and we netted it. And that was my biggest channel catfish ever. And that fish was, I know it was 13 pounds on a digital scale. And I think it was 31 inches, something like that. I should remember my biggest channel catfish, but this fish was huge. But I had control of it the whole time. So I'm convinced that other fish was even bigger. But I'll never know. I'll never know. You want to hear some muskie stories? I shared the muskie stories. God, I had the one right beside the boat last year, Memorial Day weekend, with my 6-year-old in the boat. So it threw the hook right beside the boat. It was a massive, massive fish. And, you know, I expressed my frustration without using any language. That was a challenge. You know, I shared the story already. Let me go find his comment and pull that off. I shared the story already. We were casting, my uncle and I, and he's fishing with a glider. I'm fishing with a spinnerbait. And he had casted before I did, and he was in the front of the boat. I'm in the back of the boat. Our cast lines are about 8 feet apart, right? So he's got his retrieve 2/3 the way in. He says, "There's a muskie. She's following." And then about, I don't know, maybe 5-6 seconds later, my spinnerbait was coming through there about 8 feet off from his bait. And she turned immediately off his bait and come straight over to that spinnerbait. And by the time she got in behind it and was following it, I only had now 12, 14 feet of line out. So I felt like I had to speed the bait up to get her to eat it. And so I cranked the reel real fast, and I pulled my rod back past me to even more speed. And about that time, she ate it. So now my arms are way back here, and I have no leverage. I jerked, and she just shook her head like 3 or 4 times and was gone. That was a mid-40s class fish that I completely botched it. I probably should have reeled down to the fish and then hammered her. I don't think she would have spit it. She was hot. She was hot, hot, hot. So I really botched that one. What about you? You probably got one of the big one that got away, huh? Trophy muskie? Let's hear yours. Al's Outdoors has a story of the trophy gobbler that got away. It's in one of his videos. It was in the tree behind him as he's doing his little talk into the camera. Oh, I enjoyed that immensely. That was fantastic. I butchered some turkey hunts too. Welcome in, Kyle Lee. Welcome in. Hello. Good to have you. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate you stopping in. I've got some turkey stories too. I had this old gobbler that I called in from a mile away. Well, if I'm being serious, it probably was 200 yards away. He was gobbling at me hard on a roost. And then when he flew down from the roost, he wouldn't gobble at me unless I shut up. So I stopped calling, and 5 minutes went by and he gobbled. So I did a series of calls, and he didn't cut me off or nothing, but he was there. Nicholas Green Outdoors, thanks for stopping in. It was awesome to meet you this past Saturday at the 2021 YouTube Creators Rendezvous. That was a lot of fun. You were awesome. Huge shout out to you. Welcome in. Welcome in. Awesome to have you. So this gobbler, this old mature gobbler, he sounds off when I didn't make any noise for 5 or 10 minutes. So I did some calls again, and he wasn't cutting me off like he was when he was on roost. He was just listening to me call. So then I stopped calling, and then it took about 3 or 4 minutes. He gobbled again, but now it sounds like he's only 50 yards away. So he's coming closer. He'd cut the distance in half. So I called again, but this time softly, just purrs and stuff, because I know he's real close. And I'm in a grove of hemlocks, right? And I'm in a great backdrop against a pine tree myself, and a cluster of rocks, and a nice little opening in front of me. And there's basically two spots where he could come down through the hemlocks from up above. And I put my gun at one of them, and I'm holding it like this, right? And about the time that he walks through that opening, I lowered my head to the gun like that. Pop, pop, gone. He saw that movement. Sneaky little devils. So but that was the first turkey I'd ever called in by myself. I'd hunted with my buddy Scott a few times, and that was my first good shot at calling one in on my own and having an opportunity. And that bird was probably only 20, 25. It was probably 25 yards away. And I thought I was going to line up a shot and whack him, and he caught that much movement. Gone. I couldn't believe it. But I learned. That was a learning experience. They have some sharp, sharp eyesight, that's for sure. So there you go. I've given you a buck story, a turkey story, a couple muskie stories, a walleye story, a smallmouth bass story. I have all kinds of tales of the trophy that got away. Oh, and it goes without saying that if you're bass fishing and you get a bite and you never see the fish, but it gets off, that was a state record fish. And every time. It goes without saying. That was a state record fish. I mean, it could be a stump, but no. We're sticking with it. That was a state record fish. Yeah, sometimes that's the way it goes, Al. Sometimes that's the way it goes. I can totally relate. Totally relate. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's part of it. That's part of it. They are a cagey animal, that's for sure. The beast. We got the beast in the house. Oh man. Was that at Caesar's Creek, the beast? Had the biggest muskie in my life follow from super far out in crystal clear water. I watched it all the way in, followed the figure eight 3 times, never opened its mouth, and then swam away. Mid to upper 40s. That's tough. That's tough. Yeah. I had one too at Caesar's last fall. um, my fall muskie hunt at Caesar's Creek. I had a fish that I believe was pushing mid 40s follow. I had that fish follow twice. But when I went back to it, it was during the major, and I threw the same lure. I probably should have switched it up to a glider or something different, given him a different look, and I didn't, and I kind of regret that. I think I might have had a better chance if I'd have mixed it up on him. Our state record for muskie here in Ohio, it's I know that it's 55 pounds, but and that's how they look at our state records. They don't classify any records for the state by length, but I do know that that fish measured 50.5 inches. So, I mean, it had a massive gut on it, but I don't know, 55 pounds. There's a lot of people that just kind of shake their head like, man, you ground up a couple cans of green beans and shove that down its throat or something. But what are you going to do? John Euler, outdoorsman. He says, I had a big buck spotted me in a tree stand years ago because I was shaking the tree. He had me tore up. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I've had a big buck bust me a time or two in the tree stand. Hey, yeah, good night, Chris. Thanks for stopping in. Good to have you here. Hope you have a good night. Yeah, it's the math is definitely not too clear on that muskie. A 50.5 inch fish, and it weighed 55 pounds, but back in the day, you know. Oh, another thing about the story of that fish is the guy was catfishing using chicken liver, fishing on the bottom, supposedly. So I don't know. Yeah, I think so. The beast. That's what we're working on. That's the goal. I got some great stuff coming. I'm going to do a recap of the 2021 YouTube Creators Rendezvous with Freezer Brown Outdoors this past weekend. That's going to be released Friday. Next week, I have a video where I'm muskie fishing with my 80-year-old dad. We got Robert Castleberry, PAD Life Outdoors, in the house. Welcome in. Welcome in. It's great to have you here. I appreciate you stopping in. So, yeah, my dad, he's 80 years old. He doesn't fish. He's never fished much in his life. It's just not his thing. He doesn't really care for it. But he kind of likes the idea of catching a big muskie. So I talked him into going muskie fishing with me, and we went Monday. So that video will drop next Friday. And then I went fishing yesterday, kayak fishing for smallmouth bass. So that video will post 2 weeks from Friday. So lots of good stuff coming. Lots of good stuff coming. And who knows? Some of those videos might be about the one that got away, and some of them might be the one that didn't get away. So you will have to watch. How's that for a teaser? That's about all I got for you guys tonight. Rambled on for over an hour now. This has been great. It's a really good chat, really good live stream. Some of the guys did share their stories. I shared some of my humbling stories. I appreciate you guys stopping in. I really appreciate you hanging out with me. This has been great. I did do my channel shout outs at the beginning of the live. I'm going to get those channels listed in the video description. So be sure to come back through and look for those in the video description after I finalize it as a video. And thanks again. Appreciate you stopping in. Have a great night, everyone.